We've been looking at evidence and examining clues as Sherlock investigates the tale of the disappearing beauty.
And here's 5 reasons why you might be interested in this game too. Hi, I'm Libby, this is Julian, and together we are BoxedMeeples, and we have been playing Sherlock Investigates the Tale of the Disappearing Beauty. And this was sent to us for review. And so today here we are going to tell you all about our exciting games that we've had with this and 5 reasons why you might be interested in a little investigation too.
Yeah, it's really exciting when this kind of plopped through our letterbox, which is how you'll be receiving it too. So it comes as kind of an envelope of exciting adventure where you join the great detective working together to solve the mystery. So let's get right into it. What have we really loved about playing this game? Now, there's all sorts of different Sherlock Holmes games out there. It's quite a popular theme, but what's great about this one is it has attempted to replicate all the writing style of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So as you're flicking through, you're seeing very similar language, and all of the evidence is written in that style. It seems consistent throughout it. Obviously, there are some concessions for gameplay, but even those are written in a way that feels like that could have been said at the time within the context of it all. It is worth, of course, noting that being based on those older books, there is some attitudes and some approaches and some opinions that we wouldn't necessarily have in kind of modern Sherlock Holmes style games. But that is all part of the experience of it. And it really does feel like you're going along engaged and immersed in an actual Sherlock Holmes novel.
And although we do actually think that this is quite a family-friendly game, it is worth noting that because that language that is very immersive is something that isn't always used nowadays. If you are playing with particularly younger children, there might be some text there that they won't understand a lot of the words within it. And obviously, if you're just reading out and explaining every word, you can lose the thread of the story. So be aware about sort of the language that your children know and how old you want to play with. Yeah,
you might be reading it aloud and not even know how to pronounce some of these games. But really, that is part of the fun. And what's lovely about the kind of setting of this is it's as close as possible historically accurate. So there are certain things that happened, within the time frame when the game is set that you go, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was that sort of thing happened. And I think that's really interesting and quite historically educational in many ways.
Now, the next thing we liked about this game is the different range of evidence that you find there to solve these cases. Now, of course, we're not in the business of spoilers here, so any images we put would only be from the first case, and we'll try to be careful not to do anything too spoilery. But within that range of evidence that you have, I really liked that things like the newspapers and police reports and maybe transport tickets, all those kind of things weren't just on the same sort of paper. They were all very obvious. Actually, it's really useful as well that they're on different colours, different textures. They feel that more authentic. It's really obvious to see what items group together that you should maybe be reading it in turn in one bunch, and things that you might find useful in terms of pictures or something. They all have that kind of dated feel to them, so it made it feel that much more authentic. Now I have talked a lot of paper here. There is a few more technology-based things that come on in later chapters, maybe listening or looking at something that you find later.
Treading carefully around spoiler territory here. But what we really did when we played as a group was kind of hand out the evidence, and people look through it first, and then first of all said what they had and what they were looking at, and then obviously then talked about it in detail. All of the paper is printed on one side, which sounds a little bit wasteful, but it's actually really useful.
I really appreciate that, because there's been several games that we've played of this sort of ilk in the past, where you're just waiting to either read the thing that the other person's have or read the back of the thing that the other person's had. And that's more frustrating, to have to wait to read the reverse, or have them sort of sat there and you're trying to both read at the same time. It never really works. So yes, I did find that actually.
It's good to just kind of spread it all out on the table, like some big crime solving scene. And then everyone can kind of look at something. There's no one, taking control of it all. It does feel kind of community based. The Tale of the Disappearing Beauty consists of a number of cases. Each one took us about an hour and a half to 2 hours to do, kind of playing it gently, gradually with a group of people. Now, if you have a planned evening, you can just play it all. You can go through chapter by chapter and, have a lovely evening with intervals in between before you crack open the next case. Obviously, alternatively, you can spread them out, because each of the cases are, to a certain extent, self-contained. Largely, the solution to the questions that are set to you by Watson, you find within the evidence within that case, although earlier cases do shed light on what sort of things you should be looking for. Yeah,
and I feel like information and sort of gut feeling about different characters and things like that, you might take from one case to another, but if the party was maybe willing to get you up to speed with what's happened so far, I think someone who hadn't done a previous case could probably jump in, but they'd obviously have a better experience if they'd done from start to finish.
And what's great about this game is it really is accessible to everyone. In fact, I think people who haven't played as kind of many mystery games as we have had an easier understanding of it. We were kind of getting lost in it all, trying to work out, maybe that means that, and not really looking at things on a surface, when really you just have to focus on answering specific questions.
So another element that's actually really helpful when you're playing with groups of maybe people that haven't played games before, things like that, is that there is Dr. Watson's helpful advice. And if you are sort of stumbling and getting to a bit of a roadblock and not really kind of getting to grips, there are these sort of staged advice points, which is really good. It just doesn't just sort of deep in, plunge straight in and tell you the answer. It goes, have you looked at the Times this morning? And then you realise you've got to go back to the newspaper articles, and that's where a little bit of key information that you may have missed is. So it gives you a hint as to where to look first, and then obviously the more you ask for help, the more information will come your way. And interestingly, I think it doesn't really matter if you come to a sort of the wrong conclusions, certainly in the earlier cases, because the following case will sort of set up with what you should have established, what you should have found in the previous case, and kind of give you the lowdown of, and much like we were saying earlier, where someone could sort of come in later for a different case, that's actually really helpful, the opening part of the new case, to tell you where we are, what's going on, what
previously on Sherlock Investigates.
Exactly.
And it's great because some of these other games, or games in general, the whole evening can grind to a halt when one person feels they can't, they're lost, they don't know what's going on. You can't really lose in this game. You might get it wrong, and you then kind of, as a group, collectively go, we really did think that, and it just keeps on going. So it's not going to be a case of, if you plan to play all of the chapters of this in an evening, it's not going to be a case of you don't get further than the first one because you're completely stuck. Of course, if you really love these kind of style of games, but you haven't got friends who are going to want to play with you, you can, of course, get this game and play it entirely through on your own. There's nothing stopping you doing that. But as we've alluded to already, playing it in a group really does kind of get that conversation going. It's really fantastic to collectively feel like you've solved something, and there's high fives all around as you go, you're right about saying that, because that is what you're right. That led us to finding that. And I love that kind of sense of camaraderie you get, particularly when you're playing with people who don't know these kind of games exist. What is brilliant is that nothing is destroyed in this. If someone really does love it, they can take it away with them and they can play it with a different group or shepherd them through the investigation. Obviously, you can't play it yourself multiple times because you do know the answer and there is only one solution to all the cases. So once you do know it, you're kind of done with it, but there's nothing stopping you pass on to someone else to enjoy.
Exactly, and they can have some fun too. So that's 5 reasons why we've found a little bit of Sherlock Investigates interesting to play, and specifically the tale of the disappearing beauty. I think that there potentially might be more stories coming out from there, so you could probably choose different tales, or if you enjoy this one, and then there'll potentially be more to go through and investigate.
Yeah, it's a fun kind of interesting gift you can get someone, because you can just, of course, have it delivered directly to them, and this arrives on their doorstep and gives them something to think about and something to do. If you want to get hold of this, we'll put some links in the description to where it is available. You specifically have to go and buy it directly from their website, so if you're interested, do follow the links down below. But are you excited to play this game? Have you played similar games, and what kind of Sherlock Holmes games do you like? Do let us know in the comments down below.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you. Sherlock's a very popular IP.
And if you're new to us, I'm Julian and this is Libby, and we are BoxedMeeples, and we post several videos right here on YouTube every single week, always talking about board games.
We do indeed.
But as always, thank you so much for watching.
Bye.